I'm so delighted to welcome Andrea Limbourg to today. And she's just joining us. There you are, Andrea. Now, for anybody who has been following along with recent dedoc activities, you would have seen Andrea speaking at our dedoc symposium at EASD a couple of months ago, or last month, I think it was still. She's been an active member of the diabetes online community for as long as I have, actually, which is a long time. She's an incredible advocate, a wonderful supporter of other people with diabetes. She's coming to us from France. How are you this morning, Andrea?
I'm very well, thank you. This evening.
Evening.
Thank you,
Now, I'm so
Renza.
excited to hear your talk. It's about the burden of living with diabetes, and we're going to and focusing on devices and data in particular. And I think that that's one of the things that we do need to understand. All of the digital technologies and solutions are wonderful, but they do come with a little bit of burden. So I'm interested to hear your take on this and some tips and tricks as well. So thank you so much, and take it away.
Thank you, Renza. So for anyone who knows me, they're going to be thinking, why is Andrea talking about the burdens of diabetes technology? I'm usually one to adopt new diabetes tech pretty easily and very quickly. I've been using an insulin pump for 22 years. I've had a CGM for 13 years. I got those numbers on my watch 5, almost 6 years ago. And I've been using a DIY closed loop for 3.5 years when I finally got access to the right devices. So yes, I'm really excited by new diabetes technology, and I'm really lucky to be able to access the devices that I use. So there's no question for me that my life is better because I use certain technologies. But that doesn't mean that it's easy to live with this tech every day. So I'm willing to admit that for my own mental health, I minimize some of the burdens and focus on what tech can do for me. Just helps me kind of balance things in my own life. I'm sure, like many of you, I get a lot of my diabetes information online. In this era of social media, there's often a big buildup of anticipation when any new devices are going to be launched, even if you know that it might not be coming to your corner of the world for another few years. And if you've spent any time in the diabetes online community, on blogs 15 years ago, on Twitter and Facebook groups, and more recently on Instagram, it seems like everyone is talking about and everyone has the newest tech. And even offline, who hasn't gotten an email or even a newspaper clipping from some well-meaning relative saying that a teenager in their area now has an artificial pancreas that has, for all intents and purposes, according to the author, has cured his diabetes. Also, these days, companies' branding is bright and enticing, and they seem to promise that I can sail around the world solo, I can cross the Sahara Desert, I can climb Mount Everest with their products. Never mind the fact that I have no desire to do any of those things. But I've been told that these products will change my life. So let's say, for simplicity's sake, that the new tech is finally out where you live and that you have access to it. You finally get this thing that has promised to revolutionize your life, and you start to use it, and then reality sets in. It didn't take me long to compile a list of where things can get difficult from here, almost all of which I have experienced myself over the last 22 years or more. So there's the practical side, getting it to stick, which can end up being expensive when you have skin that adhesive doesn't want to stick to. Or there could be the other side of dealing with skin issues like rashes and burns because of the adhesive. You also need a place to put all the gear. There's no question that it's hard to pack light for a holiday when you need to double your diabetes gear for the number of days that you're going away. Some people can just throw a few pens in a bag, and some of us have to put boxes of pods or infusion sets, new sensors and transmitters, and that you still need to have that handful of pens since you need backups to your backups in case anything goes wrong. There's, of course, also the technical side, finding out how to put it on and how to use it. And not all education is created equally, and support for troubleshooting isn't always easy to access. How do I know that I have a bent cannula? What do I do when I realize it's bent, and how can I prevent it perhaps from getting bent the next time? I know I once used an insulin pump that had features that I had never seen before and had different names compared to other pumps that I had used. When I read the user manual, and I did read the user manual, it told me step by step how to set up those features, but at no point did it tell me what they were for and how they could help me manage my diabetes. And unfortunately, My pump trainer was of no help either for those things. So you have to be able to understand and use that data. So, and there, I know this is going to be talked about a little bit later in our evening, but I wanted to touch on how overwhelming it can be to go from just a few finger stick data points per day to the 288 CGM points every day with arrows and loud alarms that sometimes sound even when there's no action to take, so you don't really need something beeping at you. And other times when you're in the middle of a job interview or having an intimate moment with your spouse. I did say that I was speaking from experience. There's also the emotional side of living with this technology and the data. So diabetes has always been an invisible condition to the outside world, other than sort of the moment that you're taking your treatment. And suddenly there's a shift when a device makes diabetes visible and audible. You might have to deal with other people's perceptions as well of the technology. You know, people who are saying, I thought that now that you have a pump, your diabetes would be better. Doesn't it just take care of your blood sugars now? Of course, it's not that simple. There could also be some judgment or perceived judgment, I guess, from healthcare professionals, from people who follow your numbers, and even, I know, from myself. I've been given access to this amazing and expensive technology that is supposed to help me. But how is it that I've not been able to lower my A1C or increase my time in range or avoid the hypos? And so all of this can lead to feelings of distress or sadness or frustration. But I think the key is to not leave it at that, or maybe to never get there in the first place. The balance is in understanding that using technology is not always helpful, and we need to find strategies to help. So one of the best lines that I've ever heard about choosing diabetes treatments in general, whether it's technology or otherwise, is finding the right tech at the right time for each individual. And figuring out what is right for you and when happens with your medical team and by talking with other people with diabetes who are using these same devices. People who use technology need to be actively included in the decision process for what and when to use it. There needs to be open conversations about benefits of using technology, but also about the potential difficulties that it can cause and the fact that it can cause stress. And I think there also needs to be conversation about the solutions, the potential solutions to that stress. And I think a lot of healthcare professionals play down the downsides of using technology, because if you list all those potential stressors, it can be harder to convince people of the benefits. So there needs to be structured support available from healthcare teams. And of course, there's support available within the diabetes community. Healthcare professionals can also help their patients find peer support locally or online. And I think online peer support for me is one of the most important diabetes technologies that I use. And one thing that is so important, but that I rarely hear, is technology is not a one-way street. You can go back. You can take a break from using your CGM. You can go back to MDI from your pump. You can turn off the automated functions of your closed loop system and just use it as a regular pump. It's about finding the right tech at the right time for each individual and making sure that each person is using the tech and has access to technical and emotional support going forward. Thank you.
Oh, Andrea, thank you so much for setting the scene so perfectly for us for today. I think one of the points that really resonated there was the right device, the right time for the right person. And of course, you know, and everything I say here comes with disclaimers that sometimes that choice may not be quite as broad and as wide for people, but it is still, you know, finding the right device with the choices that are available. Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere, because we will be bringing you back on at the end. But thank you very much. I really love the way that you set that scene so perfectly. I think sometimes in the diabetes world, we do seem to think of things as, you know, as technology as being all rainbows and unicorns. And it certainly is. It is so wonderful. And I'm thrilled that we have the advances that we have access to now, rather than what was available 50 years ago, 100 years ago when insulin was discovered, or even 25 years ago when I was diagnosed. But I do think we do need to recognize that it is a little bit of a double-edged sword sometimes. So thank you for doing that so eloquently. Thank you.
Thank you.